Hello, and welcome to Domainvestors.tv. I'm your host, Morgan Linton, and today is Saturday, May 30th. Before I start my main subject of this episode, I would like to give a huge thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. You know, that's really what this blog is about. This blog is about educating people about domaining and domain investing, and it's about interacting and sharing opinions. And I had a lot of people write in comments. I really appreciate that. I hope people continue to do that. You know, whether you have something positive to say or negative to say, that's fine. Say it, I'll publish it. You know, the only thing I can't have on my blog, I do moderate my comments, I can't have people just spewing profanities and saying bad things about everyone. Those will not be published. The idea here is to actually publish well-written comments, and I received a ton of those. Those are the comments you see. I really appreciate those, and I appreciate everyone coming out and expressing their opinion. Feel free to continue commenting on that issue. It's really important that you guys feel that this blog is a way to openly express your opinions, and I'll always let people do that and always promote that. So thank you everybody for all the great comments I received on the last post I did. Now, the subject of today's episode is going to be domain development. Now, I've talked about mini-site development, but now I'm going to talk about domain development. And this is actually developing a full-fledged website. Now, as you guys know, I develop mini-sites, but I do also develop full-scale websites. And recently I acquired translate.co.in from Biddo. And this is actually a service I love using. If you have not used Biddo, it's a really great way to either sell domains through a really innovative auction format or buy domains, and you can oftentimes get pretty good pricing on these. And I picked up translate.co.in. I've been a big fan of the .co.in names, and people like Ed from OzDomainer and Jeff from INForm are definitely big believers, and I am right there with them that 3 or 4 years from now, fingers crossed, we'll look back and say, wow, I was there when. And hopefully Translate is in that discussion. So basically what I'm going to build is a translation website for the Indian market. And so what I want to do is kind of give you guys the thought process that I go through when I embark on a development project. And then what we'll do is, going forward for this month, I'll actually give you guys updates and show you previews of the site as I'm developing it. So let me tell you, the first thing I do when I'm starting a development project, and this is absolutely essential, is I set a timeline and a goal. So this means that rather than just saying, I'm going to develop translate.co.in and finish it this year, I actually am setting a goal. I'm going to finish it in the month of June. Okay? June 1st is Monday, so that's when essentially the month begins. I'm actually going to start working on it this weekend. I work on all of my domain development projects only during the weekend, so this is just weekend time that goes into this. I'm projecting that it will take a total amount of time of roughly 20 hours. So I'll be pretty happy if it falls below that. If it goes much above that, then I'd at least like to know the reasons why it did for myself. And it's really important that you keep track of the timing of your projects, because with each project you get better at estimating your time. And as you all know, time is money, and when it's your own time being spent, you really want to make sure that you're using your time wisely. Well, now I've broken down the project into several different key elements. Well, the first one obviously is the translation interface. For this, I'm going to be using the AJAX interface, using the Google API. It's actually a great system where you can use the Google Translate API and embed it into your site using AJAX. For those of you that are not big-time coders, this section of the project, when I go over it, may be a bit over your heads, but I'm still going to share this with everyone on my blog. Essentially, I'll be allowing people to translate from the site into a number of different languages that are spoken in India, and translate from those languages into English and a few other languages as well. And I've actually started doing some research on what are the major languages I really should be supporting, and that way I'll make sure that it actually is a useful site for the Indian market. The next thing that I have to do in my development projects, and this is essential for all development projects, is provide some content. When someone comes to this site, while they will most likely be coming there to use the translation services, I'd like them to also have information that they find on the site. So when they get there, maybe they translate a few words, but then find some interesting articles and read those. I'd like my site to be a destination. And so I'm thinking of writing 10 different articles, and where I'm getting the subject for these articles is by using my favorite, the Google Adwords Keyword tool, and looking at what are the top keywords that people use when they're searching for translate, and writing articles about those top related keywords. And that way I know, well, hey, if someone's looking for translate, they come to the site, well, what are the other things they would be interested in? And I'll make sure that I have articles that are discussing those. And so this is probably going to take, most likely 10 articles will take me about 5 hours to do. And this is really one of the, I think, most challenging parts of a development project is actually writing the content outside of actually doing the coding. It'll probably take me, I think, maybe 2 to 3 hours to write the API interface with Google Translate to be able to actually run the translation services on the site. And then once I have, obviously, the translation services in, the content written, the next thing I need to do is actually design the graphics for the site. And this means I'll be heading over to Adobe Photoshop and designing headers, footers, buttons, all the images to be used in the site. I'm going to take a stab at designing my own logo for this site. I oftentimes do contract out the logo design, but I'm trying to become more self-sufficient with these things. So do my best to make a nice looking logo. Logo design happens to be my weakness, but one of the best things you can do as a developer is, or an artist really, because logo design is more artistry, is try to turn your weakness into a strength. And so over time I'm going to continue to try to develop some of my own logos and see how they come out. Once I have all of this done, this will probably take me maybe 4 hours or so, I would say, of design work in Photoshop. Well, then it comes to actually building the site. As most of you probably know, I do hand code all of my sites in HTML. I write all my HTML code, all my CSS and my PHP by hand. I've been doing this for about 13 years now, so it makes me feel old. But when I started developing HTML, it was actually before Netscape was even out. The only browser that was available was NCSA Mosaic and Lynx, but Lynx was a text-only browser. So NCSA Mosaic was really the only way to get a web page going. And I can remember when Netscape came out and you could do things like add a background and blinking text and things like that, that really web design started to get interesting. But I've never gone on to use a piece of web design software like Dreamweaver or similar. I've always just developed by hand. I'm really most comfortable doing that, and so I'll be doing that for this site, and probably the site in total will be, I would say, between 15 to 20 pages. And so that's really the next big step in the development project. And then really the last part is, once the site is built, finding link partners as well as partners within the Indian market. So I'm going to reach out to companies that do provide translation services and see if they would like to advertise or have a link to their site, or maybe commission me to sell some of their services. You always want to build in to any domain you're doing a way to monetize it. In the end, this blog is about domain investing, and to create an investment is to actually create a website like this. And then once you have a great website that has a useful service on it, that has content, actually reaching out and finding ways to monetize that. And while I'll be using things like Google AdSense, I think this is a great way to reach out to translation services in India and see what kind of partnerships I can make and use those in my sites. I think someone who's probably, I would say, one of the grand masters of getting partnerships together is Elliot. And if you read on Elliot's blog, you'll see, when he developed things like lol.com or burbank.com, he reached out to a lot of people, got some incredible partnerships, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why he's so successful, is he knows how to bridge that gap. And that's another tool that I'm going to be using in the development of the site. So that's it. I'll be bringing you guys along for the adventure. The goal is to have this finished by the end of June. And as I continue to build this, I will show you samples of what I have so far. I'll tell you things that have worked, stumbling blocks that I've hit, and I hope this can be a great way for people to learn how I develop sites and maybe give you some inspiration to develop some of the sites that you have. So, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next time.